You need to know what to do with that dough. Let the chef show you. You need to know what to do with that dough.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Need to Know Pod. And today we are talking about the holidays. The holidays are coming up and I want to help you prepare for the holidays. So whether you are baking, doing all the cooking, maybe you're even baking, you're selling your baked goods, let's talk about it. The one thing I think is important about preparing for the holidays is to know that you can be overwhelmed. I've been baking selling my baked goods ever since I was in culinary school, and that's over 15 years ago. And last year was the first year that I didn't, right? Last year was the first year that I made a decision not to bake because it's a lot. I was taking on a lot of orders. When I had to shop, of course, I was taking on even more orders. COVID hit, still was taking on orders. So, what I've learned in all these years is that it is so important to have a plan in place. So for me, I was not only selling baked goods, I was also the one preparing the dinner for my family, my holiday meal. Sometimes people come over, sometimes they wouldn't. I like to eat, so I want to make sure I have all the food that I want to eat. Specifically for Thanksgiving. I love Thanksgiving just because of the food. Just because of the food. So what I realized is that I had to be more organized. And what did that look like? So I'm able to enjoy my dinner and also get my orders out. There's been times that my dinner had to be on a back burner because I had so many orders to fill. So I've learned that I need a plan. So I want to help you get your plan together. Again, whether you are selling your baked goods, if you're just baking, if you're cooking, but I think now is the time to start preparing. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is start with your game plan. Let's decide what you want to make. And I'm going to take you through what I would do for the way I prepare for my holiday. And you could, take from it what you want. Let's take the orders aside. First, I want to think about what I want to bake. Right? Ask the people in your family, or if you know this is what you do. If for those who want to try a new menu out, think of, do I know how to bake that really well? Do I need to practice? What do I need? So for me, let's say I'm going to do an apple pie, sweet potato pie. I may do some banana pudding and maybe a chocolate cake, depending on how many people come. But I definitely know if no other time of the year, I want to make an apple pie. I want a sweet potato pie. Those go hand in hand for those of you who make pumpkin pies. So when I look at pies, I think about the dough, right? So that's part of my plan. Let's think about what you want to bake as a whole, right? What do you want to bake? So I want my pies, I want my cake, right? So now let's jot that down. I like to write things down on paper. I know everything is so digital and writing it on the computer, but I like to see it. So however you decide you want to do that, write it down. So I would put my cakes down, my pies down, all the stuff that I want to bake. Now, in terms of cooking, I would think about what's going to be on my menu. Of course, we want our turkey. We'll do like a roast beef, the macaroni and cheese, potato salad, the rolls. The rolls actually need to go in the baking department as well. So, what kind of vegetables are you going to have? What are you going to drink? So, all of these things, I think now is a good time to start thinking about. Also, if you are baking, so for me, I would bake at my house. When my husband's family was here, we would sometimes go over there. So I would bake for my house. Also, if you're going to bake for somebody else, to include that in your plan. So if my sister hosts something, I'll still have food for my house, but what I know that needs to go on my list, that I need to bake something else to take to her house. So keep that in mind. Okay, so now you've made a list, right? Now you want to look at the ingredients, start making your shopping list. I think that's so important. Start making your shopping list. Make sure you have everything that you need. So, what I will tell you is that things are going to be sold out. If you are looking for pie pans, you're not going to be able to find as many, right? I would buy in bulk. But sometimes if you wait to the last minute, you can't find the size that you need. You may not be able to find the ingredient that you need. One thing that I make a lot of are red velvet cakes. And trust me, at the last minute with my friends, it's just something we would do. We just be on the phone, going shopping, preparing a week of. They couldn't find the red food coloring that they would need, or the lemon extract, or the vanilla extract. So, what I would definitely say is take a look at the ingredients that you're going to use and start preparing now mentally. Look at the items that are on sale for your macaroni and cheese. I do use Cracker Barrel cheese, and you might want to catch that on sale, right? So just take a look to see who has what on sale. If you could buy it in bulk at maybe a big box store like a Costco's or Sam's Club or BJ's. Think of the things that you can get now, so you won't have so much to do the week of. Like I said, last year was the first year that I didn't bake, and it was such a pleasure to just wake up and take my time and just work on a few items. Just to work on my stuff was just so carefree, and I haven't determined if I'm gonna take orders or not, but I did enjoy just not being overwhelmed and just taking care of my family, my family dinner, and just kind of being really, really relaxed. So you definitely want to also make sure you have, of course, your ingredients, but the tools, like I said, your baking pans. If you're trying something new, do you have a rolling pin? Your parchment paper. Think of everything. Go through each item and figure out what you'll need. So I'll look at my, let's say, chocolate cake. I'm gonna need of course, I have my pans. Do I have enough parchment paper? Do I have cake boards? If this is something you're selling, look to see if you have cake boxes, right? Sometimes it's going to be hard to find the cake box that you need. Cake boards, cake boxes. Do you have your spatulas? All of these things that if you don't bake during the year and now you're just baking for this time of the year, you just want to make sure you have everything that you need, right? This goes back to our mise en place. So we are preparing way in advance, as opposed to waiting 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. And it's going to be a little harder trying to get everything that you need. That's what I found. Sometimes you can't find the pan size. These things are going to be picked over. So I think now is a really, really good time to start preparing like now. Also, you want to keep in mind things that you probably wouldn't see all year round, like specifically, let's think of the Christmas season. Sometimes you want to check to see if you have molasses. I know I only use molasses for gingerbread cookies. Only time ever do I. Yeah, I only use molasses for gingerbread cookies. So molasses, pecan pies, you need the corn syrup, and pecans, of course. If you're doing like again for like maybe Christmas, you may need some peppermint flavor. So definitely make sure you have all the ingredients that you need, especially the specialty ingredients that you might not normally see in on the shelves. So now that you have an idea of what you're going to be cooking, what you're going to be baking, I love creating a schedule in terms of what day you can make what, right? Some things can be made ahead of time. I will tell you that if you take like for my macaroni and cheese, I can prepare it. I won't bake it off, but I can make it up. The way I make it with a cheese sauce and layers of cheese. I could make it up, put it in a pan, and stick it in the freezer. If you have the space and you're able to do that, think of what you can do ahead of time and freeze. One thing I learned that you can do, I make gravies. Gravies for your turkey or for your roast beef. You can actually make a gravy ahead of time and freeze it. So that cuts out a lot of time. For some reason, I always dread making a gravy. It's the last thing, but gravy is definitely something that you can make ahead of time. I will say if you are going to make like candied yams, you can actually cut them up and freeze them. I wouldn't make them ahead of time, but you can cut them up and freeze them. So just some of your prep work, um, macaroni and cheese, I would definitely store at least 2 weeks in advance. That's just a given. You can definitely, like I said, you can make your roux and store that up. Or if you want to make the whole gravy, and the roux is actually what starts your gravy. So you decide. So when it comes to baking, you can make your pie crust ahead of time and stick your You could either make the dough and stick it in the freezer and then just roll it out. But what I've done, this is how far in advance you can make your stuff. You can make your pie crust today and you can actually stick it in the freezer. Let's say 2 weeks before the holiday, you can roll out your dough and stick it in your pan and shape your dough. I don't buy frozen pie crust from the supermarket. So I mean it's already frozen, so why can't I freeze it, right? Just roll out your dough and stick it in the refrigerator. Yeah, apples. So for my apples, what I can do is the way I make my apple pie, I can cut up the apples ahead of time and cook up the apples. I cook my apples not thoroughly, but just I cook them a little bit to withdraw some of that liquid out of them because apples hold a lot of water. So I can do that. Maybe cut up my apples ahead of time. So let's take banana pudding for example. Thanksgiving is on a Thursday. You can make your custard on a Monday and prepare it on Wednesday, just so your cookies can soften up. One thing I think people don't think about, you have this big meal on Thanksgiving. I like to know what am I eating for breakfast that day. Sometimes you go so long, then you're in the house cooking, you have all the aromas in the house, and yet you can't eat anything because the dinner's not ready. So think about that. Put that on your list of things to do. What can I eat for breakfast? I don't care if it's just some eggs or some, maybe you can have a waffle or a muffin. I do like muffins, something just to hold you over until the meal is done. So just kind of map all of that stuff out. So of course, okay, so your doughs can be frozen and you can actually, again, like I said, you can prepare them ahead of time. Your cakes. If you're gonna make a cake, you can actually make the icing ahead of time. I definitely recommend making icing ahead of time. If you make a cake, I only freeze cakes that have oil bases. So you can make a cake ahead of time. I would crumb coat the cake. And then when it's maybe a few days before I can ice the cake, I would ice my cake. Also, if you plan on giving your baked goods as a gift, you might want to think how you want to present that and make it festive. Are you going to put it in a mason jar? Are you going to wrap it in a bow? So all of these things you want to make sure that you have ahead of time. You do not want to wait to the last minute. And keep in mind, after Thanksgiving, all hell breaks loose. All hell breaks loose. It's Black Friday and things are now everything is crowded. So just keep that in mind. Things are going to start to be picked over. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Also, something I want you to consider is who can help you. Are you doing things solely by yourself? How can you delegate what needs to be done? For me, if I'm making macaroni and cheese, one way to prepare for macaroni and cheese is to grate your cheese. Where you can grate your cheese, put it in a Ziploc bag, stick it in the freezer, label it, stick it in the refrigerator, the freezer, I would say. But do you want to grate the cheese and make the macaroni? I would highly recommend that you delegate if you can. Uh, who can cut up the onions like for your dressing or your stuffing? I need somebody to cut these onions and the celery, right? Who can do that stuff for you? So even though I like cooking, I really enjoy it. I really enjoy baking, but sometimes it helps to have somebody help you out, right? I need a sous chef in the kitchen at times. Let them do it on their own time. But if I know I'm ready when it's time to start cooking and somebody has helped me prep, it makes it that much easier. So get those kids in there. I think also it's a good opportunity to get people involved. I love cooking for the holidays. I'm telling you, it's all about the music, the good food. So I'm cooking, I'm in my mode when I have my music on. So one way that I prepare, I even have like playlists for the holidays. Not necessarily playing holiday music, but stuff that's going to keep me moving, keep me working, keep me energized and motivated to keep cooking and baking. I would say make sure you are baking stuff that you are comfortable making because you're going to be really pissed off if you make something and it flops. Because now you wasted so much time. So just think about if you are baking for the holidays, make sure when I say baking, if you are selling your baked goods, don't take on more orders than you can handle. Um, Don't take on more orders than you can handle because it's a lot and it's overwhelming. And what you'll do is run a risk of not enjoying your holiday, but you made sure everybody else is enjoying theirs. Take it from me. So I'll just give you some run down some tips on what you can do. Like if you're gonna cook, what you can cook. So here's some quick tips that you can utilize when baking for the holidays. If you freeze your pie crust, make sure you thaw it out, right? You can't roll cold pie crust, but you don't want it to be too soft. I will say that you don't want it to be too soft. Pies can stay out overnight. Custards cannot. If you are making icings ahead of time, make sure you re-whip your icing. Let it come to room temperature and re-whip. I re-whip my icings all the time anyway. If you are making cheesecakes, make sure you cook your cheesecakes in a water bath to prevent cracking. Cheesecakes are something that can definitely be prepared ahead of time. Like perfect, perfect, perfect. You can push out cheesecakes all day. Bake, let it sit, unmold, freeze. The thing I would suggest, the tip is if you're going to put a topping on, put the topping on when you're ready to serve it. I wouldn't freeze it with the topping on. That wraps that up for how to prepare. Feel free to, if you have any questions about how to prepare for the holidays, feel free to shoot us an email at needtoknowpod@gmail.com with any baking questions, specifically referring to how to prepare for the holidays. Also, let's talk about something food safety really quickly. I think that's important, especially during this time of the year. I take food safety really serious, as you all know by now. And during the holidays, when you're cooking for more people, you want to ensure that nobody gets sick from the food you ate. So, the one thing I would just definitely make sure you are mindful of is cross contamination. And cross contamination is mixing like you like cooking on a meat surface and then turn around putting your, I don't know, your salad there. So you want to just make sure you are cleaning your area thoroughly, sanitizing. If you are using like raw meats and stuff, make sure you wash, rinse, and sanitize those areas before you use it for something else. Your chicken can't be in the same area. Raw chicken can't be in the same area with cooked food. Just in terms of on in the refrigerator, your raw meats should be on your lower level because if, just in case something drips out the package or out the pan, then at least it's not dripping on from the top down, right? It's dripping on a lower level and it can shouldn't be able to drip on anything. So just be mindful of that. You want to make sure that you don't keep stuff out all night. There is a time limit on how long things can sit out. So just trying to do things to control the avoidance of people getting sick. What else would I recommend? Cross contamination is just key, and make sure you sanitize. If you're gonna when you clean your turkey or rinse your turkey, I don't know. I love some bleach water. Easy bleach and water solution is your sanitizer. Bleach things down. Uh don't, if you clean with the and these are things people don't think about. It seems like, oh, I know that, or why wouldn't you know that? Believe me, some people don't know. So if you're gonna wipe things down with a rag, something that you had chicken with, just kind of sanitize it. And what you actually can do is have like a bowl. If you don't have a big container, maybe like a bowl with just a little bit of bleach water and just kind of rinse your rag in that. So you can always have your sanitizer on hand. In a commercial kitchen, you have three compartment sinks. You wash, well, wait, you rinse, you wash, and then you sanitize. Wash, rinse, sanitize. Right. Wash, rinse, sanitize. So you always have sanitizer on hand, right? Even when they come and wipe the tables, they have a bucket with sanitizer solution. So just get into the habit of that, especially as you prepare to cook for a lot of people. I think that's important. Just make sure you avoid cross contamination. Raw foods with prepared foods. You can't combine food that I cooked 3 days ago. Don't combine it with something. Oh, I made some new rice. Let me put this rice with the rice I already made. No, 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 no. So just little things like that. Just be mindful of. Let's take our bacon question. You know, I love this segment. Let's go over another bacon question. And again, if you have any bacon questions, feel free to email us at needtoknowpod@gmail.com, or you can reach out to me on my social media platforms, Chef Sahera Speaks. Okay, so this question comes from Nicole, and this question was actually emailed to us. So it says, "Dear Chef Sahera, how important is it to preheat the oven?" So preheating the oven is very important. When you place your cake or cookies in the oven, you need that oven to be at the proper temperature, because what happens is now your baked good may not cook evenly. And sometimes what happens when that oven is at the temperature we need it to be, that's when some of the chemical reactions take place, or the natural reaction. So chemical reactions, like if you're like you have your items that have your baking soda and baking powder, the first few minutes of that baking time is when that chemical reaction is taking place. When you have doughs and that have a lot of butter and stuff like that, or breads, steam causes our breads to rise. Yeah, steam causes that reaction too. Steam is actually a natural leavening agent. But if your oven isn't hot enough, now you're not going to get that same reaction. So it's very important to have it preheat your oven. You can get away with it if you're cooking, but if you're baking, you should definitely have your oven preheated, so that once your cake goes in there, you don't want to delay the time. Let's say if you take something like uh, an item that has baking soda, the chemical reaction has already started taking place. So you don't want that to sit while your oven is getting hot. That's why before you start baking, part of the preparation process, mise en place, preheat your oven. Preheat your oven. So we have another question. This comes from Stacy. Why do my cakes always sink in the middle? So what I found with cakes sinking in the middle is it has a lot to do with you underbaking your cake. If you underbake a cake, you can underbake muffins. That means that it didn't bake all the way, right? It didn't bake all the way. I highly suggest that you stick a toothpick or a skewer in the middle of it. It should come out clean. If it feels like it's a little moist, you probably can get away with it, but I'm telling you, in a muffin, your muffin will sink. Your cake will sink. That is a clear sign that your cake was underbaked. As well as it could be due to you opening the door too much and some of that heat is letting out. So before you start to peek on the cake, you want to make sure that your cake is, don't peek when like at 15 minutes and you got 30 minutes left, right? So make sure you start to check on it when you should have an idea on how long your baked item should take. So if it takes 35 minutes, take a look at it at maybe 32 minutes, not at 15 minutes. So just also you want to double check your recipe that you didn't put too much baking soda or baking powder in it. But a lot of times I find that your cake was not done. It could be your leavening agent as well. Your leavening agent. So I hope that has answered your question. Again, if you have any baking questions, I'm here to answer those questions. So reach out to us at needtoknowpod@gmail.com. And that's it, guys. That's it. We have learned the how and why you should start preparing now for the holidays, right? So we can be organized. And just to recap really quickly, we want to, number one, get a schedule, go shopping, right? We need a plan. What are we making? Let's get a schedule. Let's get our ingredients together. And let's get some help, right? And yeah, so we can enjoy the holidays and not be so overwhelmed. So that's it for this episode of Need to Know Pod with me, your host, Chef Sahera. Be sure to rate this podcast as well as give us a review. We would love a review. Let us know what you think and what topics would you like me to cover. Would love to hear that as well. Be sure to share this podcast as well as follow us so you don't miss another episode. We are streaming on all your podcast platforms. And with that being said, thanks for listening, and I'll see you in my next episode.
You need to know what to do with that dough. Let the chef show you. You need to know what to do with that dough. Let the chef show you.